Hi, HR Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the HR Leaders Podcast, the show where we explore the future of work with industry experts and HR executives in the world's leading global brands. Today, we're joined by Rafael Fejervary, Global Talent Manager at Schlumberger. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Chris. I'm very well.
It's nice to see someone in a suit again.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, it's been a while since I was wearing suits, but since the last month, I would say, it started to become a bit more normal again.
Yeah, but you're like, I'm not too far back, not into the tie yet. You've not got into the tie point. You're like, no, that's a bit step too far.
No tie, only suits, and they've been in the hanging there for a while.
Nice. Well, before we jump in, tell everyone a little bit more about yourself personally and your journey to where we are now, because it's quite an unconventional one to get here.
Especially when the podcast is called HR Leaders. I'm not coming from an HR background, which is interesting. So I'm Venezuelan. I started my career a few years back. I'm a mechanical engineer. That's my major. And then I joined an oil and gas company as a field engineer, working in many locations, offshore and onshore, doing the actual work in the field. And then after that field assignment, I had the opportunity to work in operations management, and I had different roles across multiple countries, mainly between Latin America and Europe. And around 4 years ago, I got the call to come into the HR function. And I had a couple of roles in the HR function. So the first one was I was the head of the HR function for one of our product lines globally. And most recently, around a year and a half ago, I moved into the global talent management role for the whole company. So it's been an exciting journey from the overall career, and I've also grateful for being or having the opportunity to work in a function like HR. How
does the engineer get a phone call to say, come and work in HR? Tell me a bit more about how that happened.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of how we manage careers. So we believe that by actually having that growth mindset at different points in your career, getting you exposed out of your, what you call the comfort zone, and pushing you to learn, it's important. So the way we, in a way, manage careers is very well embedded in our culture, and we take this risk, not only with me, but with many other people. And that's what makes the journey exciting, right? So you're always learning. Let's put it that way.
What was your view of HR before going in versus now?
Well, when you're in operations, you use HR likely as a business partner. You ask them more in a transactional way of things. But then what you realize is the lifeblood of the company and how a company operates and how you develop people and how that development is aligned to the business requirements. And engage, and it's all within the function, right? And it's all architect in the function, of course, with input from many other parts of the organization. But now, when you are in the core of it and you see the importance of that and how that drive a company forward, it's an amazing experience.
Nice. So you wasn't thinking, why do I have to do this? I don't want to go.
I would say I was thinking it was a very transactional function.
Yes.
And then when you are in the core of it, you realize it's not.
Yeah. You mentioned to me before, though, that you don't post jobs in the company. Explain a bit more about that, because that also leads to these type of opportunities, which led you to where you are now.
We have strong, I would say, talent management culture within the company. We offer borderless careers, meaning that we don't put a restrict career path. It's more open. But by saying that, we anchor everything on performance. So performance matters, how we call it. And we have I would say, a very comprehensive process around performance, around developing our talent, and so on. So we don't post jobs, because part of how we develop people is by exposing those people into different roles, different functions, different geographies. And we do that with the help of management and the function. What we do ask employees, why is that what you would like to do? What is that you see your career going? And we encourage career conversations frequently out of the normal performance appraisal process, so that is more frequent. And with those data points plus the business requirements, where do we need to staff certain jobs, we make those decisions. So with that, we can enable out of the box career path that really builds the overall portfolio of an employee.
Mm-hmm. I've worked with some of your colleagues over the years, and one thing that I always think about your organization, you have quite a long tenure. So most people that join the business stay for a long time, which is in this day and age, not that common. Do you think that's one of the reasons, because they have an opportunity to constantly grow and develop and push themselves in different roles, different functions?
If we talk about motivation, right, and I'll do my personal story, but I'm sure that it connects with many people, right? I guess we're all motivated by challenges, right? When you have something that you need to solve and you need to learn and you need to tackle it and you need to work in teams to get that something sorted. And then you start jumping into different type of problems that is not only in your area of comfort. This is what keeps you moving. So the fact that you know that you're going to solve problems in different type of functions or different geographies or within the same function, but going deeper and deeper, and knowing that you will have that opportunity, again, based on performance, based on merit, is rewarding. And I think this is why people, when they join a company like ours, it basically they join for a long time, because the careers are very rewarding.
Mm-hmm. Is that what also inspired you to take this new role? Because you took this new role just before lockdown, if I'm correct.
Yeah, so I took the role just before lockdown. It was a bit of a dual role, because I was taking the talent management role and also the project management for a reorganization that we were going through. And of course, any reorganization has a lot of talent management embedded into it. So having these two was very well connected, and managing a project this size, connected with all of the talent management processes that goes with it. It was an amazing experience. So yes, it was about the growth.
Mm-hmm. Is this your first global role?
No, that's actually the second global role.
Okay, fantastic. And how do you describe your role to people in terms of what you do, your day to day?
Well, in a way, talent management is so a company is made by people, right? And the people, and how you develop people and how you grow people within the company, is what really talent management is about. And in a simple way, when we explain about the processes, the tangibles, what are the things that are touching everyone, and that they see how they impact those processes impact their career, they know what I'm talking about. So when we talk about performance management, or when we talk about a skill management system or a competency-based framework, when we talk about high-value identification or succession planning, career path, and so on, then they understand what is that we do in talent management.
That kind of leads us on to the next part of the conversation then, because I know a big passion for you at the moment is around the appropriate use of data analytics to help you and the organization make better decisions.
Is one of my passions. What I realize, and maybe this is what it comes, when you come from an operations role, when you need to manage different metrics to know whether your business is going in the right direction or not, you start, I would say, exploring into the data analytics world, right? And then you can bring that skill set into many other things. And when joining the function, what we realized is that we had a lot of very good processes that were very well embedded in our culture. And you always think, how can I make this better? How can I evolve on the things that we already have that are very good, right? And one of the biggest opportunities we saw as a team is, how do we actually use data to drive better decisions, right? And how do we, in a process around performance, around where do we need to develop skills, the skills of the future, or how do we make candidate selection decisions? If we bring data into the game, the process is just going to get better and better. So, in different ways, we are trying to touch some of our processes and embed a data analytics layer into it just to make them better.
Mm-hmm. I see so many companies now on a similar journey. And I think the last 2 years have fast tracked that for many companies who have realized. Where are you on that journey so far?
Well, the first thing I would say is because of one of the comments you made, is people join us for a long time in their lives. So we have a lot of data, right? So what I mean by a lot of data, we know from our own data to which roles each employee have been, what is the performance that the employee have had on different roles and so on. So what we tried to do was to take a step approach. What I mean by a step approach, if we find ways to search for candidates with certain conditions around their journey, then you have a richer candidate pool when you're trying to make a staffing decision. In the past, it used to be a snapshot of who is doing what today, right? So when you bring the journey into the equation from an analytics point of view, then more talent comes.
Mm-hmm.
What we are trying to do now is the next step is knowing what everyone has done in their career, understanding what are the skills that the business needs. How can we leverage on that and understand which are the company-wide skills so that means we would know what the gaps are and we know where we need to develop our talent and how do we build career path to enable the skills that we need for the future. Mm-hmm. So in a way, the journey that we're trying now is first, and this is a multi-year program. I would say it's a very complex problem to solve, especially when you have a very diverse workforce in terms of skill set. And how do you build the skill framework? How do you match your skill taxonomy into jobs? And then how do you match those jobs, those skills to employee based on the jobs that they've been? It's only the first layer. So basically associating skills to jobs, skills to employees. And this is what we're doing now. We are using AI to see how well, with the data that we have, can infer skills. That's step one. Step two, once that base layer is done, the next step is how do we use then those data points to take better decisions. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that, if I know which are the skills that every job require, and I know which are the skills I have as an employee, and I know as an employee which are my aspirations, so then I know what is my gap between where I am and where I want to be. So you can create tailored career paths that are not a one-size-fits-all, but it's a career path that is based on growth. It's based on what am I going to add into my portfolio to continue growing as an individual. So mm-hmm. that should improve as well the experience from an employee point of view. The second thing is once you have that skills to job match, you can do tailored development plans. So instead of having a one-size-fits-all training program for the whole corporation, you could tailor those programs based on individual needs. So now it becomes again more personal. So career growth, it starts to become more personal, and at the end it's aligned with the business, because you will reward the skills that we really need to drive the business forward, especially in companies like ours that are in constant evolution, right? I think every company is now being disrupted in a much faster pace than before. So the only way to cope with all of this complexity is just to enable that culture of learning, on lifelong learning. So it doesn't matter in which part of the organization you are, learning is going to be embedded in your DNA. So we believe that a combination with that learning culture plus the data analytics piece around skills and what's in the employee portfolio is what's going to continue driving forward the development of our people.
Yeah. Well, that was an amazing explanation. You made that a lot more simple than it could have been as well.
Yeah, it's to be fair, it's a very complex topic. It is.
That's why I'm saying it.
and with anyways, we are testing different solutions. We're trying to see which one is the best, and hopefully we're gonna get there sooner than later.
What I love about this is you're already doing this internally. You are a perfect example personally of the culture of the organization and the way you progress, but now you have the data and analytics lens, which is just going to make it so powerful for the team to make those decisions, right? So it's super exciting. And I think if we've seen anything over the last couple of years of the disruption that's gone through, we need to create personalized employee experiences. We do the same thing with our customers. We've done this for many, many, many years, but now we're actually finally doing it with our employees as well. So the tools are all there. We're not having to invent new technology. It's just now we having to take it out of a people analytics lens over that, obviously linked to the strategic focus of the business.
It's amazing. The moment you start scratching the surface of a small thing you're trying to solve, and then you see all the opportunities that come.
That's one of the problems, though, right? It's too many, too many things. What's been the biggest challenge for you and the team so far?
Well, it's a big corporation, so every time you're trying to do this sort of thing, the first thing I would say is that we have a fantastic people analytics team. If your company is really serious about this, there has to be a core people analytics team that really helps to drive a lot of these initiatives, right? So that's, I would say, one thing. The next thing is from a change management point of view is, all of these processes in a way are hard-coded in how we are used to do stuff, right? So we need to really have a way to drive a change management that is, so it's not so much about the system, but it's about how we communicate the change. Why is this change important? And how we're going to take normally a step approach towards driving that change. So simple things like a skill management system. It's not that we haven't managed skills in the past. We have very a very good depth of expertise, and we have processes to drive that expertise forward. But all of this is going to start eventually changing the way we manage careers all across the company. So it's going to touch all of us. So how we manage that change and how we communicate that change goes on top of the best possible business solution design.
We've spoken to so many of your peers over the years, and it's always the people element and the change management part that is the biggest challenge, right? It's the technology, the systems, the tools, they're all there. But where people sort of normally struggle is on the execution of that change that happens in the organization, and they realize it's not a 2, 3, 4 month project, it's ongoing and continuous.
Exactly, and be open as well. Be open and transparent. Why are you doing it? What is that? What is that? What is in it for everyone? What is in it for the company? And how is that going to help us moving forward? So, bringing that sense of transparency, involving people in the feedback on how you can make the process better is key to drive a change. So again, there is no a magic recipe. We are in this journey. But the change management piece is with anything that you'd like to implement is at the core.
Mm-hmm. Well, on that point, so many of your peers that I speak to are almost overwhelmed with the technology piece because every week there's a new company popping up which claims to solve all of your problems. As well, how have you gone about selecting the right partners to help you drive this?
Very good question. So internally, we had a very good process where everyone came up with a digital solution that was trying to solve one of their challenges, right? So then we went and did a prioritization exercise. What are the things that really will impact us in the next 5 years, and how are we going to invest on those things? Once we knew what we wanted to do, then we started looking at what is out there, right? I would say the first thing is whatever solution needs to be open. What I mean by open, the way we manage these systems, we have a core system that is internally designed, right? But that core system has, of course, the limitations because there are different
Of course.
solutions that should connect into it. And based on that connection, we can make our system better. So it's more a partnership rather than an off-the-shelf solution that then we would have to adapt our processes to the solution. While what we want is the solution to actually enable our processes, right? And that openness is very important when we are selecting a partner. The ability to connect with and interact with our own internal tools.
Does that normally already rule out partners immediately? Like, does that make sometimes, is it quite simple for you to go, okay, those ones, it's just not going to work?
It depends on what you're trying to achieve, but I would say in the talent management space, it does, right?
Okay.
If that openness is not there and we have to basically put all our eggs in the same basket and go only with one solution, normally for us is a no-go.
Okay. So what's the next step after that?
So once you have that, then the next step is you pilot, right? So instead of having a big bang, this is the solution, this is what is going to solve our problems, you pilot, and you try to pilot with more than one partner if possible. Internally, that creates additional load because that means more suppliers to manage and more data to manage. But it's, as you are piloting, what you want to get out is which is the solution that really gives me or it gets as close as possible of what I'm going to get, and also which are the partners that I'm willing to work in the long term. So you kind of pilot that very early stage. You see the adaptability, the solution itself, the ability to connect with our system. We have a different list of criteria on selecting the partner. We work together, right? And we develop this pilot. And normally, again, in the talent management space, at least our guiding principle is you will select a geography, right? Instead of going global, you go and select a geography that has the largest sample of possible jobs that could be a good representation of your global sample. So we try always to see what is that we're trying to do, and then we select the best geography or function that is contained for that particular solution, and we run it there. So we run pilots in a contained, known environment. We have a very good criteria on how to evaluate those pilots. Once we are comfortable with the pilot, then we'll make the decision based on the outcome on expansion plans. So instead of, again, going in a big bang, we start growing regionally, and then we have or by function, depending, again, on the solution. It could be a global thing, or it could be a global thing for one function, or it could be a regional thing for all functions. So we work on that aspect. But I think what we try to do is to avoid the big bangs, because then from a change management point of view, then people would get lost on what is that we're trying to achieve.
For people that haven't done this before, are each of those sort of competitor vendors that you're piloting, are you paying them for those pilots?
It depends. Normally we do. When you're committing to something, right, there has to be some sort of investment, right?
Sure.
And even if at some point, sometimes they offer free pilots, depending on the solution. But internally we invest because we put resources, we put
regardless if it's free, you're still putting resources.
So at the end, in a way or another, you end up paying.
Yeah, no. And how long do these typically last?
Well, a good pilot, let's pick an example, right?
Let's give an example. Yeah, that'd be great.
There are simple things like internal developed tools, right? So when we do internal developed tools, normally if it's a process that already exists and it's just an upgrade to that process, we go global, we don't pilot, we launch, period. If there is something that we're going to change around the process, a la skill management system, we pilot. And depending on the pilot, what I normally do, I connect with the network of other companies that have done it. I get feedback, right? That's
a great piece of advice there that you just said, Joe. That's a very important one, to reach out to your colleagues and peers who are already working with these companies, right?
And I tell you, without their feedback, it would have been impossible to structure what we've structured. So some other companies are already entered in this space. So we got their feedback and they said.
And how did you do that, by the way? Because people really struggle with that. Did you just like reach out to them on LinkedIn, just call them up? Like, well, what does that look like practically?
So we are part of a network called Executive Network, and is an HR network that if I have a request to connect with someone, I do. And we use some of our, once you establish the connection, then the network just keeps building up, right?
Yeah.
So we use a network, and with that network, we connect through those networks to the companies. And depending on the topic you're asking, they will connect you to someone that is more advanced in that theme. And then you have a one-on-one. You express what is that you're trying to achieve. They share what they've done. There are things that do not apply for what you're trying to achieve, and there are things that are very relevant. So, piloting in a contained geography was one of the biggest feedbacks we got, and we took it very well in our deployment plans, and I think it was the right decision. Going with more than one solution was also another suggestion. Instead of getting close to only one vendor when you're piloting, try to expand that. So in a way, all of this feedback was very well taken, and we also realized that everyone is in the journey. Nobody just claims.
No one solved it. Right? Oh, has it? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Well, that's a misconception, right? That it's like a 6-month project, or like there's a timeline. It's ongoing.
It's ongoing, it's evolving, and the technology also evolves. So you get more stuff that you can do with it, and it's just growing. You just need to understand what is your direction, what is that you're trying to achieve, and once you have that very clear, then the technology piece will come.
Mm-hmm. Well, once you've chosen a vendor and you're working with them, how often do you do check-ins with the team to see where you are versus where you want to go, and sort of look at the pulse of the project and how it's performing?
Look, from a structural point of view, there is, as I said, because this is I'll put again my hat on skills, which is one of the biggest projects that we are running at the moment. We assign a project manager because it's really a full-time job between organizing all of the events with the different subject matter experts. So the first thing is that your skill taxonomy needs to be very well defined. The inference and the quality check of the inference needs to be very very well done. So the project manager makes sure that connects through all of the SME, gather the feedback, and all of these will just make the solution better. So it's on weekly basis, right? So the connection between the project manager and the partners is on weekly basis, and the connection between the project manager and the different internal people that will give input to the solution, it's depending on the time on which we are. It could be daily, weekly, or sometimes monthly if now we are in a phase where we are happy with what we have, right? So it really depends on where you are in the project. It's going to be very intense at the beginning as you are QA/QCing the inference piece. But then after your inference is locked, then the rest of the interactions are less frequent internally.
Well, you do have that person working full time though, right? So if there is an issue, I'm sure they're going to raise it.
Exactly.
You can work on it. When you spoke to your network about putting this together, what was the most common challenges or mistakes perhaps that came up that they were like, don't do this, avoid doing that?
So I would say the first challenge is trying to be perfect before you start, and trying to over-design something that you will take a lot of time. So the advice was start. The second one is just get on with it. The second thing is, so don't over-engineer it, because it's an evolving solution. So it's not going to be perfect at the beginning, and you're going to grow with it. So the second thing is don't go global, which connects back with pick a pilot. So if you go global, the chances of in big launches like this, the chances, first, the load is unmanageable, right? When you have a large size of organization. and you might lose a lot of focus on the quality, and then you start focusing on quantity. And at the very early stage, what you want is quality, and then in the expansion is about quantity, right? So these were the two big themes: is don't go global at once, and don't over-engineer.
Get started.
Yeah. Get started.
Yeah. It's almost like when we first started up my company, you have your business plan, right? And you map out everything and it's all going to go perfect. And this is all the steps. And then all of a sudden you take different directions, you're up, you're down, right? You're exactly. Constantly, and I realize now, similar with us, when we launch a new product, we just launch it immediately and then iterate along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because at the end, nobody knows that. Even if you have a perfect plan,
no one has a perfect plan.
Implement, it might change, right?
Yes.
Things are evolving really fast. So the best way is you have a direction, you have a north.
Yeah.
It's not that you don't know where you're going.
It's how you get there is different, right? It's like
exactly how you get there. You could go this
it's
way.
Not a straight line.
Oh.
I don't think I've ever launched a project where it's been a straight line to get there as well. What are your hopes for the future in terms of where? I know obviously it's not a sprint, definitely to get there. But what's your kind of vision moving forward of where you hope to get to?
My vision is for people to first that we have reduce the bias in any decision-making process by having more data-driven approach. That's one thing. The second thing I would say is if we can give tools to our HR leaders to reduce the time they spend in the screen and actually give them more time to more face time with employees. So by having these tools to suggest or recommend decisions for our HR teams, then you basically free up their time to actually have a more face-time approach with employees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And from similar, I suppose, from an employee perspective, you're empowering them with for their career and giving them the tools, processes, visibility, etc.
Exactly. So the word there is transparency. So you know where you are in the journey. You know where you're going to go. So you know what you need to develop to get to that place, and it will depend really on you to get to that point. So from an employee point of view, this is paramount, having that transparency.
Yeah, it's like super engaging, like empowering to know and see it and feel like you have control over your career. I think we've all worked in jobs in the past where you're waiting for that tap on the shoulder to be promoted, or the company, your leader or your managers to recognize. But now they can go and do it themselves, which is super exciting.
And this is something I'd like to highlight. What it means to be in control of your career, right? Because it's when you are in control of your career, is you take control of your learning plans, on your development. Is you don't wait until someone signs you on a training, so you do it. Right, you find ways to make the job that you're doing better, right? So if that 1% rule that whatever you find, you just leave it 1% better. Imagine how much we can improve. So just don't sit down and continue with that transaction. Just make it better, and all of these things will make a very good build teams, right? So it's not a one man or a one woman show. It's how do we build teams around that journey, and what is that legacy I'm leaving behind every single thing I do. So when we think about you drive your career, it's an active role. It's not a passive role, right? And it sounds obvious, but sometimes we need to reinforce that message all across.
Amazing. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been fascinating as well. And I know you've still got a lot of work to do. So maybe we'll check in a few years and see how you got on. But before I let you go, where can people connect with you if they want to reach out and connect with you personally? And also if there's sort of a parting piece of advice you'd give to everyone, what would that be?
So you can find me on LinkedIn under my name. So Rafael Fejervary. You can send me a message through LinkedIn and we can connect. If you have any questions or want to deep dive in any of the topics that I mentioned, and what I would like to leave with is It's a fast changing world. It's evolving really quick every day. And the best way that we can cope with it is the lifelong learning. If we keep ourselves learning all the time, we will have the tools to adapt.
Fantastic. Well, look, thanks again. And I look forward to doing this again soon. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Chris. My pleasure.
Bye.